Fruitful Living with Sissel Anderson. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey. And what is marital love? And how can a old movie, well, I guess not too old, teach us about this love? Without further ado, we'll talk about all about it is Sissel Anderson. Good morning, Sissel.
Good morning, Keith. It's great to be with you. When you were saying old movie, and I realized I'm the one who said old movie, but I was like, I hope that's not insulting to anybody.
No, me too. I was like, oh, wow.
To be fair, movies have only been around for so long. So
That's right.
In the grand scheme of things, in the history of film, a movie from 1968 is older.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen this movie before. Yours, Mine, and Ours.
The title is familiar, but I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to introduce it. If anyone else is listening to right now, they may have heard of it, but I'm going to give a kind of a summary so you kind of are set up on what we're talking about. It's a comedy movie. It stars Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy and Henry Fonda from like 12 Angry Men and a whole bunch of other things. Really great cast. And it's a movie I grew up with. My parents always loved watching this one, and it's actually based on a real story. And the premise is that a widow and a widower, one with 8 children and one with 10 children, get married. And it's based on a true story. I'm pretty sure this was a Catholic family. Very open to life, clearly. And at first, the wife is, her name is Helen, and the husband is Frank. And at first, when they realize how many kids they each have, they're like, this is a terrible idea. Like, we should not be getting married. But after, going back and forth a little bit, they finally determine, this is what we're supposed to be doing. They get married. And being a very open to life family, they have their 19th child pretty soon. And so the scene that I'm thinking of, the scene that stuck out to me even as a younger kid, is the scene when Helen goes into labor. And it's so funny because it's very much a comedy film, but it has this great little monologue, because I'm going to set the scene for you. Okay. Picture Helen has just gone into labor. It's the middle of the night. And Frank, hilariously considering the fact that he's been through this 10 times before, is not calm. And is running through the house yelling, red alert, red alert. There are children running everywhere. It's like pure pandemonium. And even on top of that, he goes downstairs and discovers that one of their daughters and her boyfriend are there, and one of their sons is like beating up the boyfriend. And he's like, what on earth is happening here? And he's just trying to get, he's trying to get the very pregnant wife to the hospital. And as he's going and running around, the daughter's is crying and running after him, saying, I need to talk to somebody. And basically the premise of what had just happened was that I guess a boyfriend wanted to go further than she did in their relationship. And she was trying to figure out was she wrong for saying no. And Frank is just like, listen, he goes, this has been something that has been going on for years, because she's like, when you were younger, it was different. He goes, no. These are things that have been happening forever. Is that, and she goes, am I being old fashioned? And he goes, you know what? I have a message for your boyfriend, Larry. This is what it's all about. This is the real happening. And at this point, they have Helen, and they're getting her down the stairs. And, Helen is like, very much in labor. He goes, if you want to know what love is, take a good look around you. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, take a good look at your mother. And of course, Helen in labor, she's like, now? Don't look at me now. She has no idea what's happening. And he goes, it's giving life that counts. Till you're ready for it, the rest is just a big fraud. All the crazy haircuts in the world won't keep it turning. Life isn't a lovin'. It's the dishes and the orthodontist and the shoe repairman. The ground round instead of roast beef. I'll tell you something else. Going bed to a man doesn't prove your love. It's getting up in the morning and facing the drab, miserable, wonderful, everyday world with him that counts. And at that point, then, they get into the hospital, into the car and drive off. And Helen's very confused. She's like, what are we talking about? What's going on? But it stuck out to me. And the older I've gotten watching that movie, I looked at it and I was like, man, I wish they did that more frequently in movies nowadays.
Yeah.
Because it was a movie in the late 60s where that was a very, I think, common topic, especially very interesting era when, love was becoming very free and parents, I'm sure, were trying to combat this. And that was a time when Hollywood was also being a little bit more cognizant of that and helpful towards the parents. I don't know. Keith, what are you thinking?
Yeah, no, it's funny to hear something like this from Hollywood, where
Right?
it's almost completely gone topsy-turvy. I want to say somewhat recently, over like, 15 years, maybe a little bit longer. But yeah, that was so, just because I've never seen this movie before and just listening how you described it was just like, wow, that's like a lot. That's pretty wise words coming from a script that someone wrote in Hollywood.
Right.
It's wild.
In the late 60s, too. It's not like it was a 1940s film.
No.
And of course, like, I want to make it very clear that Hollywood has always had its issues. Like, the people always think of, like, the old school, movie stars, they were so clean. And I'm like, I'm sorry, behind closed doors, they were a mess, just like they are now. Nowadays, it's just more public and accepted. That's all. If you watch, sometimes if you see, like, old Hollywood bloopers and stuff like that. And they're not clean whatsoever. But yeah, I think it's really, really beautiful. And I love when, movies like this can kind of influence. It clearly influenced me. And I don't think, again, I didn't really truly think about it until I was later in life and I had become Catholic. And I was like, man, that's a really good little line that he's giving in the midst of this chaos, in the midst of this comedy movie. He decided to do that. And I like the last line where he goes, it's the wonderful everyday world with him that counts. And it makes me think also of our relationship with God, because there's a lot of periods where we're in ordinary time right now. There's a lot of ordinary, the day to day. There's nothing terribly extraordinary happening, at least in your opinion, whether it be helping with the kids or if you're single, whatever, your job and you're volunteering. It seems very monotonous. But that's not what, proves our love to God. What proves our love to God is just every single day choosing to love him and waking up every day, kind of the little way. Like Saint Therese said. I also was at the reason why I kind of want to talk about this week is the Diocese of Fort Worth had a young adult mass this last weekend, and Bishop Michael Olson celebrated, and it was really beautiful. And it was really funny because he came in and he made his homily about marriage. Like I was like, oh, you've come with a mission. I like this. And I remember he started it out saying, as young adults, you're thinking you're going to meet someone, you're going to date someone, you get married, and then life, works out happily ever after. And he goes, well, reality, it's you meet someone, you date someone, you get married, you get crucified, and then it all works out. And I just thought it was a great opening line, just talking about, he goes, people often forget that step. We're very confused when it comes to dating and marriage. Yeah. So it's hard because we want to have the happily ever after, everything's fine, but recognizing that it is that day-to-day, oh no, who's going to get this kid here? Oh no, we forgot to turn the, crock pot on. Oh my car, this kid's car broke down. We got to go rescue them. That's the beauty of love and marriage. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's funny that like this whole topic, because like in less than a month, we'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary, my wife and I, which it's wild. I would say like marriage is like the most rewarding yet most difficult thing that I've ever experienced, and I'm sure others could probably agree. And it's talking about the mundane. It could also be easy to get lost in the mundane, and have things be status quo, which is something you can't do in marriage. You always have to like keep going at it and making it. Trying to get it to, not exactly what it was when you were dating, but to just never stop dating. And so it's just very interesting how those kind of tie together.
Oh, yeah. And I always love talking about this subject as a single person because I think it's really, it's fun because I feel like 10 years from now, you could have the, Sissel didn't know what she was talking about. Listen to Sissel from the, the past. But I was thinking about in the last segment with the Next Right Thing with Adam and Debbie, they were I think Adam said something along the lines of the closer we're getting to God, the closer, and when we're getting into our vocations, like when we're going into marriage, stuff like that, we are getting closer to God. Sometimes the harder that life gets and the more attack I think that there is. And so, marriage is a beautiful and wonderful thing, but I think it's really important, especially to any of my young adults that might be listening, who may be a little bit confused by it. And I'm saying this is me too. It's really hard sometimes to, shuffle through the media and the Hollywood and the way that they present love and marriage. It's kind of difficult and you think that it's going to be something that it's not. And I think it's important to prepare for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of on the same subject, obviously you're the producer and the host of Young and Present in Dallas, but you're going to be interviewing somebody kind of in the same realm here.
Yes, I am actually from last Wednesday. Taylor O'Brien, who came on to talk, about dating. Here, I wanted to do a more in-depth, hour-long conversation. So that'll be this Friday at 11 a.m. It's in the North Texas area, but you can of course listen anywhere on the app, and I will live stream it as well. 11 a.m. Central, Young and Present. So I'm very excited about that. It's been a while since I've had a Young and Present episode because I think Share-a-thon kind of bumped me to the end of the month. So it'll be fun. I'm very excited just to kind of have this conversation about love and maybe some of the lessons she learned while she was in the dating world and any wisdom that we can impart to the others. But I guess, for this week, if there's any young person in your life, first off, pray for them.
Yes.
And maybe offer some advice. But also, I would encourage families maybe to watch Yours, Mine, and Ours. There is a remake from the early 2000s. I've never seen it. I probably couldn't recommend it because I haven't seen it. And it's not to say that Yours, Mine, and Ours does not have anything maybe that you might want to review before you watch it with your kids, but it is a family comedy film. There's probably some jokes that might go a little bit overhead, nothing too crazy, but there's a few things. But I would definitely recommend it. I mean, if you are a fan of Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda, it's going to be a good film.
Absolutely. That it's definitely going to have to add that to maybe like one of the weekend films. Because there's not too many good things, I guess you'd call them, coming out from Hollywood today.
No, not at all.
No, absolutely not. My goodness, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. I know a lot of people out there are married, or at least know somebody who is married, and could absolutely share this little bit of wisdom from that film.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I keep finding old films that I'm like, ooh, this has a really good moment in it too. So we might just have a monthly Sissel's movie review and how it relates to our Catholic faith.
Can you think of any recent things that have a pro-life or pro-marriage theme to it? I was trying to think of,
but it's a Sundance film documentary, so it's a little bit different.
Documentaries don't count.
I'm sorry, but it's really good.
Oh, gosh. Thank you so much, Sissel, for joining us this morning every Wednesday. We can obviously catch you on Back to the Father, 1 p.m. on Fridays. And, of course, this coming Friday, Young and Present in Dallas, 11 a.m. Central on GRN Online. But that is it for our first hour of Morning Joy. Now, if you're going to be listening to Holy Mass, stay tuned. Keep praying for us. We'll keep praying for you. Otherwise, we have a whole another hour of Truth and Joy, talking with Father Michael Joseph Paris in the next hour, talking about St. Therese and how she can help change your greatest failure into your greatest path to holiness. So stay tuned for that. But we'll see you right after this break on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.